Hello, my name is David Berger. Welcome to Floristry Practical Tutorial. Today we'll be covering fine wiring. I'll be producing a wristlet using fine wiring techniques. You'll see some of the materials that I've selected and wired to create the wristlet. Ivy leaf, Ming fern, liriope grass and dendrobium orchids. This wristlet will be created on one of the pearl bracelets, and using the attached plate, which I've put two parafilmed 26 wires through, which I'll use as an attachment a little bit later. What I'm going to start with is a parafilmed 22 gauged wire. This is going to be a guide wire that I'm going to produce my spray on. I'm going to expose at least 2 centimeters of the wire beyond the first placements of the material. This is going to allow an attachment point to go onto the bracelet. What I'm going to do is parafilm my material onto the guide wire, and I'm going to start to create a graded shape using the ivy leaves, overlapping them slightly to create a triangular point to the beginning of the spray. I'm then going to place some of the orchid buds over the leaf to again start to create the shape that I want to make into this wristlet. You'll notice when I've placed my materials down that I've graded all my materials from the buds and the smallest blooms to the larger blooms. It's very important to be organized when producing any wiring technique, so you can go to the material that you need to place, and to make sure in this design that we use gradation of the size of the materials. So I've started with the smaller ivy leaf, and now I'm placing a slightly bigger ivy leaf underneath the dendrobium to act as a base that the larger, fuller blooms can sit on. Remember, with your wired material, you can also angle the stem to sit out from the spine that you're creating on the guide wire. This then starts to build the shape, the triangular shape that we're after. The overall shape of the wristlet is going to be a diamond. So it tapers at both ends, and then there's a fuller circular shape in the center. Now that I've reached almost a midpoint, I'm going to bend out the small ribbon leaves that I've created with a little loop and a straight piece to also add to the shape of the design, and I'm going to place those behind the dendrobium orchids. All along, what you can see I'm doing is just attaching all the wires onto this main spine of the guide wire. From now on, because I've reached the center of the spray, I'm going to start to return the wires. And when we say return a wire in floristry, we meet a junction point or the midpoint of the spray that we're creating, and then all the material that I put after that, the wire is returned back on itself like a little loop, so that the junction point remains at the same place, but the end wires are coming back down over or returning over the junction point. So again, this time though, because I'm doing it in reverse, I'm placing the larger blooms and then I'm going to taper them into the smaller blooms at the end. The same with my ivy leaf. I'm going to place the slightly larger ivy leaf under that large dendrobium, and then I'm going to place the smaller ivy leaves to allow for the buds to go on. So again, returning the wire, and you can return the wire as long as you need to. So I'm holding it up here at the junction, and then I can project it out as far as I need to so that it ends the diamond shape that I'm after. So the same with the bud. I put the bud of the orchid in and then bend it down so that it reaches that same point. Then to finish the spray, I'm going to make sure that I attach all the wires to the guide wire, and then I can take the wires to one side and remove them from the guide wire. So just what you need to make sure is that your return wires are longer than when you've cut off, so that the material is going to cover the end of the wire. Then, just for neatness at the back, even though this will sit flat on the bracelet, it's always good to cover our mechanics. I'm going to place a single ivy leaf that just sits under the spray so that everything is concealed nicely. The other thing to remember is that all your flowers are wired, so if you need to manipulate any of the materials down to cover the inside or the side view so that there's no wire visible from the side, you can manipulate any of your flowers around. So now we have the two extension wires each end of the spray. I'm going to take that off, make sure that I've covered all the ends of the sharp wire with parafilm to prevent any tearing or ripping of material, and then I'm going to put the base plate onto the spray. So to do that, I'm just going to put the wires through the pearls, and there's little pieces of elastic within the pearls that will capture the wire. I'm just making sure that I'm opening the little legs of the wire up enough so that they can go through. Then I'm going to pull the base plate down onto the band, and then I'm actually going to turn the band over. So the base plate is actually underneath the band, just supporting the spray that we're about to place onto the band. Now I can put the spray onto the band, and using that guide, that first little guide wire, I can then attach the two wires and twist them around the little guide wire. This is going to secure the spray onto the band. Once I've done that, I can take that off and fold it under again nice and neatly so that there's no chance of sharps piercing the person that's wearing the actual spray. Then I'm going to do the same at the base. I'm going to twist the wires from the base plate around the base, cut them off and twist, return the sharp up underneath the bracelet so there's no chance of the sharp. Then I can meld the shape of the bracelet or the spray down to the bracelet. And this is our wired spray. We have the diamond shape with the buds at each end, the fuller shape in the middle of the bracelet, and it's securely attached using the base plate and the guide wire.